just because you document everything better and you get AOMSI and you get subjective, hybrid, and object and all that, okay? Does that mean when you submit that to the attorney and the attorney submits it, does that mean he's automatically going to get a higher offer? And the answer is no. You need to be aware of this, and this is what will happen, and this is how you need to be aware of this and influence what I'm getting ready to say. If you're not aware of it, insurance companies will know how that attorney has settled cases. They know if they've settled cases. They know if the attorney has taken it to court. They know how many times he's gone to court. They know how much he's won. They know how much he's settled for. So they know that attorney's history. So the attorney, if you don't look at anything else, the attorney alone will make a difference. As an example, a C attorney who typically never wants to go to court, they just want to settle, they're routinely going to get lower offers with the exact same case if that case was given to a trial lawyer who routinely goes to court and routinely fights and wins periodically. Okay? So the reason I point that out is you can't just, the insurance company's not in the business of handing out money. That is not how it works. And you don't start with $100,000. You start from zero. Your documentation and how well you document it is what builds the money for that attorney and the patient. And how well. Now, even when you, let's say you take a good case now, you got all the categories, you got primary and secondary indicators versus, the typical old sprain strain. And you hand that to the attorney and he submits it and he doesn't get much more of an injury award, and that's why. Is because they're used to giving him lowball offers. In other words, if you were an insurance company, what would you do? Would you automatically just give him more money now? And no, it doesn't work that way. Now, you need to be aware of this because you need to, number one, you need to be aware of it. Number two is you have to coach your attorney. You've got to prod your attorney that they need to hold out. In other words, you're the one that needs to tell the attorney if he has a good case or not. And of course, that's what we're going to be covering in great detail, is what makes a good case. So you have to tell the attorney that, number one, that depending on how the history of him settling is, that's how he's going to get treated. If he's used to just settling, they're just going to keep lowballing him. Why would they just offer him more money? They're not. So typically on the first time that they have a good case, they have to, they got to kind of step up to the plate. Meaning they got to be willing to go to court. They got to be willing to hold out. And they got to be willing to sue to take it to another level. So just be highly aware of that. And I'll give you a couple examples. One of our doctors started doing the documentation, hands it to the attorney. Insurance company gives them the typical crap, even though it's much better wrapped case, much better documented, okay? But now the attorney has confidence in my client and he holds out. He goes, no, we're not going to settle for, the crap you gave me before for my crappy documentation. And so they go to court. They win, and it cost the insurance company $67,000 to go to court. And so what happened with that particular insurance company every time now, and this particular state has a $15,000 cap. But what happened is every time my client gave the attorney the documentation, that was much better, the insurance company automatically now gave him $15,000 limit every time now. They didn't even try to do lowballs anymore. See, that was the difference between challenging them. And it's kind of like a bully. A bully will just kind of, the bully in kindergarten or elementary school, they'll just keep bullying you. And that's what the insurance companies do until the attorney punches them in the nose. And punching them in the nose is being willing to hold out and sue their ass and take them to court. And so you need to make sure you let your attorney know this. Don't think just because you give a much better case, much better documented, they give it to the attorney, and all of a sudden the insurance company is going to fall over backwards and hand them a bundle of money. It's not going to work that way. If they're used to giving that guy peanuts, they're going to keep giving him peanuts until he punches them in the nose. You need to be able to explain this to your attorney, that they're going to look at his case, they're going to look at his history. And by the way, this is why you need to let your attorney know, this is why an attorney should take at least one case to court every year. So when they look at the file, they go, yeah, he's not bluffer. He's not a bluffer. He will sue us. He'll take us to court. Okay? And an insurance company does not want to go to court because they don't want a McDonald's coffee verdict. They don't want, this crazy verdict. They want to do everything they can to stay out of court. Number one, it's going to cost them a lot of money just to go to court. And then the risk of losing can set a precedent. And that's what happens. It sets a precedent. They want nothing to do with that. They don't want a precedent set. So it's a fine line, but they're not just going to hand over, bushels of money just because you've got AOMSI. All right? So I want you to be aware of that, and you need to express that to your attorney. Most of these lower level attorneys don't even know this. They don't even know that they're being tracked, and the insurance company just looks for what they settle with, and they know they can just bully them because they just constantly settle. They just settle. And by the way, on a personal note, that's why if you or a family member ever get in an accident or need an attorney, you better go to an attorney who has shown that he has a record of going to court and winning. Because that's the person who's going to be respected more. They're going to be willing to negotiate higher, faster than some peon that never goes to court. So be aware of that. Now this gets to be a little bit of a problem with C attorneys, because C attorneys don't like to go to court. So, there's pros and cons of everything. Nothing's just black or white. So there are pros and cons to everything. So just be aware that you do need to, and I'll give you another example. And what this will depend on is the attorney's trust in you. See, their hands are totally tied. They're not going to think of yourself as the attorney. You can't go to court. You can't talk. You can't present the case if you're the attorney. You need somebody else doing that for you. Well, how much trust do you have to have in somebody that they have the ability to do that? That takes a lot. That's not just, that's like these people that send out mailers and they expect to get referrals. I mean, that's pie in the sky BS. You got to have a lot of trust in somebody to be willing not just to send them the case, but now to go, yeah, I'm going to trust you because you know how to put this all together, and you know how to explain it to a jury. See, that's when you really cross over into the referrals. When you do the sales presentation and become the authority, where he sees you as, yeah, you are the one that knows how to put all this together and explain it to a jury. And now he is willing, in other words, he trusts you enough to take a stand. See, his willingness to take a stand depends on you, his confidence in you. This is what you have to project. This is what you have to know. You can't just hand it to him and expect that he's going to get this mega award. Okay? So another simple case, and we'll move on, is another client of mine. And he had a good case. He had an AOMSI and he had everything documented. He had all the categories. And he told the attorney, he goes, you got a good case. And he explained why, because you have to be able to do this, right? You've got to be able to explain to the attorney if he has a good case or not and what it's based on. And that's what we're getting ready to cover. So he explained all this to the attorney, and the attorney still had weak knees. He was still wanting to cave. He was still wanting to settle. And finally, my client just flat out said, if you settle with him, I'm never going to testify on your behalf again. And he basically kind of, held strong with the attorney. He gave the attorney a backbone. This is what you have to be. You've got to be the damn backbone for the attorney. And then, so he held the attorney accountable. He said, don't settle. You got this. You got this. We need to go to court. We're totally fine. We got everything in a line. And so he really held the line. And the guy ended up, they ended up bringing it up to $50,000 without going to court from just pennies. The typical, excuse me, the typical spray and strain, piddly handout. All because he was the backbone to the attorney. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you because I had this conversation the other day with a client. I'm like, that's not how it works. You got to be aware of this. You got to create the backbone. You got to give the support. You got to get him to see that you know what the hell you're talking about and that you know how to explain all this stuff and put it all together to where he has enough trust in you to go, yeah, because it does take a lot of trust. You got to think about that. If you're an attorney, how much trust does it take to put in somebody? Because remember, you're the only person that's going to be able to do this. None of these other doctors can put this together. They just put pieces together. They just talk about their piece, their neurological evaluation or their MRI or whatever. They can't put this whole case together. So it will be dependent on you that you show them you can put this together. And then you got to think, well, how much trust does he have to have in you, or they have to have in you, to where they hold steady, they put the extra effort and time in to go to court and, put their foot down. And then now it's all on you. All of that's based on their trust in you. What does that take? You got to step back. Put yourself in the opposite seat. You better know what the hell you're doing. You better be able to express that. That's what it takes to win over the attorneys and get all their referrals, not just hand them better documentation and walk away and let them be weak and pathetic. Because the same thing's going to happen. Because they're not just giving out money. They're not just throwing out bags of money. That's not how this works. But when this attorney does challenge them, everything changes. That's when they start treating them totally different, instead of just treating them like a little kid and just, slapping them. That's when it changes. And that's why I say if you have a good case with a C attorney, because remember, they don't like to go to court. They're not trial lawyer people. So that's why I say with those people, when you got a good case with a C attorney, you need to talk him into either taking it to court, which he doesn't want to do because he's not good at it, or combining with a trial lawyer at least one time to get his name on the books that he's willing to fight for it and take it to court. Okay? So this is all stuff that you have to do. I mean, I say this all the time. Chiropractors think the attorneys know a hell of a lot more than what they do, and they don't. And the more you get in this game, the more you talk to them, the more you're going to find this out. They don't know the medical side. They know the legal side. They don't know all the intricacies and details of how to put this case together. Remember, they only look at typically 3 things. Did the person have surgery, a positive MRI, and how much damage was done? They don't know how to put the damn thing together. And of course, that's where you come in. That's where you come in. That's how you get all the business. You're the one that not only knows it, knows how to document it, you know how to put it together, and you know how to explain it. And that's why you get all the business.